Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. Boy, we got a dandy of a crew today. We got six of us talking football. We are talking about a crazy weekend in the NFL, and I even have some interesting college notes. People wonder why I'm wearing the Jacksonville Jaguars cap. Good reason. Candy and I, Ebling and I, went out there and covered this game over the weekend against the Dallas Cowboys. It was a classic, so I had to go out there and put this cap on, knowing full well that's one of the best football games I have ever seen. As I said, the title says it all, a crazy weekend in the NFL. Plus, I have some interesting notes from the college as well as the NFL ranks. But that said, I'll introduce the crew and then we'll get to it because we have a very busy, loaded show. All right. To my right, top, Candy Ebling. Welcome back, Candy.
Thanks, Scott. Great to be here.
Just came off of Chicks and Salsa with the girls, Carrie Johnson, and Jennifer Lewis, right, Candy?
Correct.
Very good. Well, we're glad you can join us tonight. Smoking Jeremy is back for another round. He was on Fire Up Michigan, and now we're talking inside the pigskin. Welcome back, Jay.
I'm ready to talk some football. I just got through writing a little piece about our Lions.
All right, oh boy. I like your little pieces. They're very easy reads, folks.
This one wasn't quite as little as most of them.
No, that's all right. Don't give it away. Okay, they're little enough compared to what I have to write tomorrow.
It's a teaser.
All right, well, that's fine. All right, Mr. And to the lower right-hand side on me is Rick Curdy. Welcome back, Rick.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
You're very welcome. And we bring him back. I should say he's back. Steve Ballesteri, welcome back. Been a little while. Hey, Steve, let everybody know what you've been doing the last couple of weeks or so.
Well, I've had some issues of my own to work through, but then I was up in Fort Walton Beach in Eglin Air Force Base recently. I was visiting my old unit, and I went up there with a couple other guys, and they threw down the welcome mat for us. It was fantastic, and we got to do a lot of stuff in a very short amount of time. So it was a lot of fun for me to go back and see the guys and go out on the range and put some lead down there, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, put some lead in your opinions because we're going to have a lot of them tonight. And last but not least, my running back, the one I hand off the rock to, wearing a cap tonight, Mel Farr Jr. Welcome back, Mel.
Great to be back, guys. How's everybody doing?
Doing all right. Getting ready for our Christmas break here. We're glad that we're going to end this year on a very strong, loaded note. All right. With that said, we'll get to topic number one. Let's talk about the continued success of Brock Purdy. Last win, 21-13 at Seattle. Quarterback controversy and Treylance on the road. I don't know. But I'll let you guys. We're going to start off with Rick Curdy on this one.
I said this from the beginning, and I'm going to say it again. Treylance is going to be a bust. They overreached with him. I don't like him. Everyone wants to say about Jordan Love being a bust when he hasn't even played. I'm sorry. I don't see this with Treylance, and I think the 49ers know they made a mistake. Garoppolo's been playing good. They said that they might bring him back next season. Purdy looking pretty good. I know it's only been a couple games, but he's looking pretty good. So Treylance, like I said, I think they've had buyer's remorse with him for a while. And I've never been a big fan of him. So do they have a controversy? Yeah. Garoppolo and Purdy. I think Treylance will be gone.
Rick, you're making analogies where you actually feel like you're sounding like a journalist. Am I rubbing off on you or what?
I guess so. I'm just, like I said, I'm Mr. Opinion. I'm just giving my opinion.
Yeah, but you're making journalistic analysis. That's a compliment whether you even understand it or not, Rick. Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, you've come a long way compared to where you started, but that's good stuff. All right, we'll turn over to Steve Ballesteri, our resident Patriots reporter, about Mr. Purdy. This first time you've actually had a chance to think about this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching him. He's extremely impressive. The one thing I found that was fascinating with him after the first game where he played, I think it was Connor Orr from SI did a story on him. And he was saying that, when he was getting ready to come out in the draft, that a lot of NFL scouts and whatnot said he was undraftable because he's built kind of like a fullback and his throwing motion was all cockeyed. he was thrown off his toes. So because his quads were so big, so he threw himself into training. He got with like a pitching coach guru instead of a football guy. And he went to a training camp with like Baltimore Orioles pitchers, and he learned how to throw. He added 5 miles an hour to his passes at the end of this, and he kind of reinvented himself. And then there was a cognitive test that they give for quarterbacks, and they said that most rookies don't test very well on this. And he tested. It's supposed to be, they show you some kind of a quick thing where you're supposed to see the defense, read it, and know where to go with the ball. Yeah. He tested on this to the level of a starting NFL veteran quarterback.
No kidding. Wow, no kidding.
But I think he's played extremely well. I think they're going to have a competition next year. I don't think they're going to wash their hands with Treylance right away. They've invested a lot in this kid. So I think they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt and let these guys play it out, and the best man will start. But and when it comes to Purdy, I've been really impressed with the way he, his poise in the game, in the pocket. Nothing seems like it's too big for him. Right. And I think he's played really, really well. I think the 49ers are still a force to be reckoned with in that NFC, because defense travels and they have a really good running game. And when you add this kid in, I think they're going to be heard from.
Yeah, I think by now the stigma of the Mr. Irrelevant's kind of worn off a little. But let's not lose sight of the fact that it's a 262nd pick, and he played 4 years at Iowa State. So not like he didn't come in with any credentials, even if he was the last guy drafted. So with that said, Mel, we talked about it week in and week out about Brock Purdy. How do you like his progression?
Well, I saw the guy play in college. The guy's played a lot of football, so he's had a lot of snaps, a lot of real live snaps in a big time conference. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me. A lot of these guys just need an opportunity once they get to the NFL. Everything is really there's no meritocracy in the NFL. It's all about your draft status. And he just so happened to fall in a situation where the heir apparent, who San Francisco felt was they're going to be their heir apparent, got hurt. And then they decided to bring Jimmy Garoppolo back.
Right.
And then now Jimmy gets hurt. So this kid here, is kind of the last man standing, and he gets an opportunity to play. And credit to him, he was prepared, but that doesn't surprise me because, like I said, I've watched him for the last couple of years in particular, but we know this guy was a 4-year starter. He's had to work for everything. Nothing has ever been given to him, but he's got a lot of big time games. We're not talking about like North Dakota State, some of the teams that Treylance has played. And, we know that Treylance, I think he might have 5 or 6 games under his belt of real, and it's not the same type of competition that Brock Purdy was going against,
right?
At Iowa State. You're playing big time football there in the Big 12. I mean, you're playing Oklahoma, you're going to play Texas Tech, you're going to play Baylor, Oklahoma State. You're under the fire. And Iowa State has never been, a big time program in the Big 12. I mean, I can't tell you the last time they won the Big 12. So, he brought that program to relevance where him and Brees Hall, where they were competitive on a week in and week out basis. So it doesn't surprise me what he's doing. Just a lot of these guys need reps. And that's why I'm glad to see the XFL coming back and the USFL gives you an opportunity to develop some of these quarterbacks, because typically when you go to the backup quarterback, the quarterback play is horrible. When Matthew Stafford went out a few weeks ago and they brought in that backup quarterback, I mean, the guy couldn't throw the ball. I mean, it was terrible. It was embarrassing. I mean,
neither
got
one
these
of them.
multi-billion-dollar franchises, and that's the best you can do as far as a backup quarterback is concerned. But again, like I said, it doesn't surprise me about this kid. They have a good problem on their hands. I can say that. They have a very good problem on their hands. I mean, we know Jimmy Garoppolo, he's very serviceable. His problem has been his health. And here we are again. It's his health. But with Treylance there, And with this kid, what are you going to do? Is this Bill Belichick found himself in this situation when he had, when Drew Bledsoe went down, and they brought in this guy who was the 199th pick, and look how his career has worked out.
Okay. All right, Jeremy.
Brock Purdy, what I see in him is a younger version of Jimmy G. He's a game manager. He has a decent arm. He's accurate. He has poise in the pocket. He knows when to get out of the pocket. He has enough athleticism that he may get you a first down on a third down. I kind of agree with Rick because Treylance hasn't shown crap.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Candy.
Brock is exciting to watch. He's excited, like his excitement, what he brings to the stands. It was kind of almost like, and I hate to use this analogy because he's much better, but it was like when they brought in Gardner Minshew for Jacksonville. He came in and he set the stands on fire. He set the team on fire. He's young. He brings, like I said, he brings something different to the team than a Jimmy G does and everything like that. I can tell you, I was reading that San Francisco, they can hardly keep up with the demands for his jersey. It was almost the same as when Treylance was announced that he came out and was they picked him in the draft. They're running out of his jersey as Christmas gifts. It's exciting to see. It's exciting to see how he shared, that first touchdown with his dad. I wish him all the best success. And like Mel said, it's a great problem that they have. Let's face it, my Packers, yeah, but their two quarterbacks, well, let's see what they have compared to what San Francisco has. Way different.
Well, I got to tell you, Candy, you bring up an interesting point. From a business standpoint, it couldn't work out any better for the 49ers that they're selling Brock Purdy uniforms. Before I go any further, Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune, and we're striving for 1,000 subscribers. So please help us get to that number. We would greatly appreciate it. So hit the red subscribe button, and then you are good to go. You get all of our live streams as well as our remote. So a lot to get to. Brock Purdy's out of the way. Now we're going to go to another quarterback. Well, former one anyways. Going back to his alma mater for a short period of time. Drew Brees will be an assistant coach for Purdue Boilermakers versus LSU in the Citrus Bowl. And as I mentioned, versus LSU. So I'm going to ask you guys in a moment, is coaching in his future? But I also want to point out something else, that Grahamharrell has been named the new offensive coordinator, and he played for the late mikeleach. Prominent quarterbacks at Purdue include Bob Greasy, Mark Herman, who was involved in the John Elway trade from Baltimore, and former Detroit Lion Gary Danielson. And when I talk about Mark Herman, he was involved in the famous Elway trade. So I think you're going to have a lot of good firepower between Brees and Harrell in that bowl game. So I guess the main question in here is, I just like to get Harrell in because it's good that he's going to be able to get an offensive coordinator job. But the real question is this, okay, is Drew Brees coaching in his future? All right, I'm going to go back to the same order that we have. We'll start off with you, Rick. Drew Brees coaching material.
Why not? I think he's trying something new. The broadcasting didn't work. So he said, let me go. Maybe I can be a coach now. And we'll see. It's way early. We haven't seen anything of it. But maybe that's what he wants to do. He'll start off from the bottom and, and work his way up. He's not going to be like Jeff Saturday, get thrown in there and have no clue what he's doing. So, work your way up a little bit. And who knows? He could be a head coach. Look at Trent Dilfer. He's a UAB, and you see a lot of these players now becoming head coaches. Pretty well-known players now. So Drew Brees, we'll see what he does. Give him a couple of years, and if he becomes a head coach, we'll see. But is it in his future? Sure, why not? Like I said, the broadcasting didn't work, so maybe he wants to be a head coach.
Steve,
I think it's in his future. I could see Brees working up at some point and being a offensive coordinator someplace, but we'll have to see how it all works out for him. But you get the feeling that he still has that desire to be inside the game. So I think it's in his future.
Yeah, and you know what I do? I'll turn over to Mel in a moment. If it's in his future, I hope it's at Purdue University, his alma matter. All right, now I'll turn over to you, Mel.
I mean, I think he can do whatever he decides he wants to do. Usually with guys who played at the level that he played at, when I'm talking about a high level, they don't generally have the patience. And he's got a lot of other things that he has going on. He's got the little pickleball thing that he's doing, and I think he's just coming there to help out because the coach, who was it, Brom, left and went back to Louisville to be the head coach at his alma mater and where he grew up. So just to me, I just think that he is just there for right now, helping out, getting his feet wet, seeing if it's something he wants to do. Because again, you get away from the game of football, especially the way that he played, because you want to spend more time with your family. You get into coaching, you're right back in the grind again. You're not spending a whole lot of time with your family. You're breaking down film, looking at cut-ups all day long. One thing we know, he doesn't need the money. If he wants to help some kids and help his university, it's something that he would probably entertain. But I don't know, if he wants to go there and be some kind of special assistant or if he wants to be the guy.
Right.
So that's the thing. Does he want to go there and be a quarterback coach and make a quarterback coach salary, whatever that is, $150,000, $200,000, whatever that may be,
Right.
Or does he want to be the head guy? But I mean, obviously, he can do whatever it is that he wants to do. He's afforded that opportunity with his resume. The fact that he went to school there and had some great success there. He can do whatever he wants to do. But I don't really see him doing that, to be honest with you.
That's okay. Yeah, and as I was looking over this again, I'm still amazed at the prominent quarterbacks that have come out of Purdue, dating back to Bob Greasy, Mark Herman, Gary Danielson, just to name a few. And of course, we all talk about the John Elway trade where it actually worked out, where Baltimore got a serviceable quarterback. We all know what happened with John Elway. So we'll turn it over to Jeremy, coaching for Mr. Brees. Jeremy?
I don't think it will be. I mean, if you want to talk about the real comeback player of the year in 2021, it was Drew Brees' hair, because that guy retired bald as a cucumber and came out with a full head of hair as a sportscaster. He was finally able to relax, get stuff done, make himself look better, and have fun again. And he was having fun in the broadcaster booth. He just wasn't good at it. I don't think he'll ever be a head coach because of the time involved. He'll end up losing all his hair again.
Well, he doesn't have to be a head coach. He could be a quarterback coach like Mel or anything. But you know what, Jeremy? Every single night, you always find a way to keep a lot of people laughing. And you have a streak that I'm going to start documenting for every person that laughs. And I can't count that high, but I know I can count on Candy Ebling to come up with an answer. Right, Candy?
So Drew Brees said, "My kids are at an age now where I certainly want to be around. I love being around and I don't want to miss a thing with them. I think the coaching lifestyle doesn't quite fit where I'm at in my life right now. Not to say that that'll never be the case." So I really think that right now he's just having fun. This was a short stint. He wanted to step in and help them out and test the waters and see kind of, do I want to put my foot in later on once my kids are a little bit older? And what level, what kind of commitment do I want to make to football? He devoted 20 years to his career. What does that look like for him and his family and his wife and his kids?
Okay.
Like
Tom Brady said that too. And then once he got into the daddy do list, he ran right back, and
there's a lot of things Tom Brady has said that hasn't been true.
Well, all right. Well, we'll move on to Zach Wilson, Rick Curdy's favorite quarterback. Well, might as well. I mean, we talk about what's trending, timely, and it's Zach's turn. So he started for the New York Jets against the Lions after team doctors didn't clear mikewhite for contact, although White wanted to play, but the Jets didn't sign off on it. The Lions with a 20-17 win. Zach Wilson's numbers are 18 of 35, 317 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. And actually, believe it or not, the Boca Raton Bowl is in progress right now, and that's where Zach Wilson shredded Central Florida. I don't have a score; don't really care for it. No vested interest. But when you talk about the fact that Zach Wilson's going to get an opportunity to start again this week with the Jaguars because Mike's still out. All right, Rick, you voiced your comments off camera. Now you can voice them on it against Zach Wilson here because we don't think you have a whole lot of kind things to say about this guy.
No, he's a bust. He's a spoiled, entitled brat. He's a bust. His whole teammates hate him. The only reason he's playing because Mike White's hurt. Mike White looks great. I'm impressed with Mike. We talk about Purdy. I'm impressed with Mike White. He's got the poise and demeanor. He's got the respect of the locker room. I mean, there are people saying that they'd rather have Joe Flacco than Zach Wilson out there. Did he play good? He played better, but he's been awful. He's Ryan Leaf 2.0. The Jets whiffed on him. I don't know what was the big – I never liked him from the beginning. I thought he was incredibly overrated. But that's the Jets, But I think they have some good with Mike White, and they have a good, decent quarterback, a journeyman, and Joe Flacco. But he's only playing because Mike White's hurt. But he's a complete bust, and the Jets know that. The fans hate him, and he stinks.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel, Rick?
Yeah,
Okay.
really.
Yeah.
Rick.
I mean,
and you know what? His coach, Robert,
about him.
Yeah,
Go
his coach Robert Saleh says we're in the instant coffee age, so everybody seems to go out there and react to that.
And yes, Saleh said some snide comments about him as well. And that's his head coach, so I mean that's how they feel about him.
No,
yeah,
that's
but now
not
he's
what he said, though.
Well, all right. Well, you know what? We'll turn it over to Steve. Don't worry, Jeremy. I'm sure you'll be able to provide more candid insights and more you hear everybody else. But Steve, some thoughts about Zach.
Well, I'm not a big fan of his. I don't think he's a bust at this point, but I still think he's the third quarterback on that team. Now, whether he can develop into something, we don't know yet. It's only year 2. I don't think so because I've watched him play against my team, and those are probably the worst games of his career.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm painting that a little, and plus the fact that I'm biased against the Jets because I don't like the Jets.
Tell me how you really feel.
I'm not going to say a lot of really positive things, but I will say that they have a legitimate, really good defense. Right. And until they lost their running back to a season-ending injury, they looked like they were primed to make some noise this year. I still think that Wilson isn't the guy this year. I'm not even sure they're going to make the playoffs this year, but if they do get in, they're not going to go very far with him.
Well, I personally don't declare a quarterback a bust until at least year 3. That doesn't mean they can't get bust status, but 3 is when I go. Mel, you played the game. What's your take on this?
I was never very high on to begin with. Those flash in the pan guys, I always have a concern about them. And, he was one of those combine workout warriors, did one pass and everybody, everybody, was enamored by his so-called arm talent. I mean, being able to throw the ball hard and far is nice, but football, you got to have some touch. You got to have some feel in the pocket. And then you have to be able to lead men. And that seems to be the problem that he has, right, is being able to be a leader of men. He kind of reminds me of a Johnny Manziel, so to speak, that he's just happy with the fact that he made it to the league and he's really not concerned about, anything else, trying to improve his play.
Right.
He's in the brightest of lights. He's in New York City. Right. And, it's unfortunate for him, I guess, but Robert Saleh, I mean, he was there when they made the decision to draft this guy. So I mean, he was in the draft room talking with the general manager and the scouts, and they made the decision to pull the trigger on this guy. So you got to dance with the girl that you brought. Now, I'm not going to say like Rick saying that he's a bust, but it doesn't look very good for him at this time. In particular, because it looks like his teammates have lost confidence in him by that comment that he made. Did he feel any responsibility? I think it was
Yeah.
for the defense. The defense has been playing lights out, and he's playing like boo-boo. So it's
Well,
going to be very difficult for him.
yeah, it's taken a while to recover from it. Has had time, 3 games to think
He may
about
never
it.
recover. I mean, he may
Right.
never recover if he plays back poorly. He will never recover.
That's true, because then he'll totally lose the confidence already.
Yeah,
But not only what he did.
Some of his receivers were showing some frustration with him in that game as well.
Okay. All right, Jeremy.
Zach Wilson right now looks like a quarterback that came out of college just a year too soon. He needed another year of seasoning in college. He has the arm talent. He has the athleticism. What he doesn't have is that activity from one ear to the other. You know, that space right there? It seems to be devoid of good decision-making at times. He tends to float his long ball, which technically there could have been 5 more interceptions yet in that game Sunday versus the Lions, but we'll take the one we got because Jerry Jacobs was the only one with the intuitiveness to jump the route. That being said, he's not horrible, but he's not good. That's the bottom line. He's got a big arm. He can throw the ball deep. His tagline is the best one in the NFL right now, and I'm not going to say it because, there's a lady present. But still, he only went to Brigham Young because their mascot was the Cougars. He was just sorely disappointed when it was the animal.
All right. Well, you know what? Quit while you're ahead, Jeremy. We'll let the lady take over.
Well, now you're going to make me follow up on that? Come on.
I don't know.
So the one thing I'll give Zach Wilson is he's reached out to Steve Young, Drew Brees, and Kurt Warner for advice. So those are some good guys to reach out to, but
too little, too late.
Grow up. That's my advice.
It is. His comments, as young as he is, he hasn't been in the league long enough to make those kind of comments. And when you make those kind of comments, the rest of your team is not there. Let's face it. We've all talked about Aaron Rodgers making comments, and look at how his team is performing this year. Now they're starting to come back, but Aaron's way more proven than Zach Wilson. And look, they're still getting the same results.
Why did they come back and start playing for him? He finally shut his mouth and just started playing football.
Yes.
If there's ever a time when I'm glad I'm a moderator, instead of part of the panel, it's when guys like Jeremy B say things like that. So I'll let all you guys take care of it. I can just sit here and laugh. Hello, Jennifer Matthew Lewis. How are you, Jen? We need to put this girl up here. Yes, Jennifer.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, y'all.
Yeah, you're part of our double. Yeah, there we go. Good old Jennifer. God love
Jen,
her.
I love your 2 bulldogs.
There you go.
Hey, thank you to the Jags for beating up on the cow pies. We appreciate it.
All right. Well, you know what? We got some more comments in the chat room. I love it, Candy. You know who's in charge of reading those, right, Candace?
Yeah, Zach Wilson does need to grow up. Now people can't even bring their moms to a pet because of his tagline and antics. That's Big Dan Davis.
That's sad when that's all you're known for.
That's one of my fans.
I
love Big Dan. He has great takes.
That was good. Oh, this is becoming more fun by the time.
The last show. I mean, we gotta
we are. Hey, listen,
zing it up.
We're working on making it better, but boy, I'll tell you, when I have a bunch of thoroughbreds on this thing here, we're all going to be racing for the finish line. You're right. So, all right. Well, as I mentioned, I'm glad I'm the moderator with a timely opinion. So with that said, we're going to go to an OMG, and Candy and I know what that means. Oh my God, Jacksonville Jaguars in front of 69,050 people. Candy and I were having all kinds of problems finding a hotel because Cowboys Nation was all over the place. The Jaguars win 40-34 versus the Dallas Cowboys in overtime. I'll break down the numbers. Dak Prescott, 23 of 30, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. One was a costly one for Rayshon Jenkins in overtime. That went 48 yards. Trevor Lawrence, tell you what, I had an opportunity to talk to Trevor Lawrence for a moment or so, talk about Trayvon Walker. Hopefully we'll get that out there, at least in one of my columns there. But anyways, Trevor Lawrence, 27 for 42, 318 yards, 4 TDs, and interception. And Zay Jones was the beneficiary of those touchdowns because he had 3 of them. Now get this, and I know that Dan Quinn, if you're looking for a job, you're not going to get it this way. But the Cowboys defense gives up 503 yards. Running back Travis Etienne had 19 carries for 103 yards. And Doug Peterson's doing an amazing job. And I'll say this about Dak Prescott. He's had 9 interceptions since week 10. No one else in the NFL has more than 5. All right. You know what? I like the order that we're going. I like having Jeremy on the back so he can cook up his one-liners and make him crazier. So, Jeremy, you're positioned properly, so think it through so we can keep laughing at you, okay?
I got you already covered.
I'm sure you do, but we'll start with Rick, okay? And, Steve, I don't know how often you work with Jeremy, but, boy, this guy is unbelievable, and I think you're getting to feel that you guys have more fun together now. I've created this 6-man thing.
Well, I gotta tell him something once we get through this.
No problem. All right. Well, Jeremy knows. Stick around after post. All right, Rick, go ahead. Since you chastised Zachwilson, well, what about the Jaguars game? That was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Now I can finally say something nice because I actually have respect for Trevor Lawrence. I've loved Trevor Lawrence. I saw him at Clemson. I said this guy's going to be a superstar. Peyton Manning, the poise, the intelligence, the calmness in him. No surprise that he's doing great. We all know why he didn't really stink. I mean, it was just Urban Meyer just didn't want to be there. He's too busy going to bars and all that stuff, and he didn't want. He didn't want to be there. But I mean, no surprise with him. No surprise that the Jaguars have improved. They got a much much better coach than Doug Pederson. Great coach, great guy. I had him as my coach of the year when the season was just like they didn't even have a game yet, and I said he'll be coach of the year. They'll be much improved. I love what Jacksonville's doing. I love the owner because even though it hasn't worked out, he tries. He has passion. He's got lots of money. He puts so much money, and you can tell he really, really wants to win. And so I like what they're doing. Love Trevor Lawrence and Dak Prescott. I'm sorry, Cowboy fans. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with Dak. He's extremely overrated. He's another Tony Romo. You're not going to win nothing with this guy.
Well, I will tell you this. Doug Peterson has one of the best sense of humor I've ever seen. Right, Candy? Remember I said I got 2.5 questions out there? Explain to the audience what that was like, and then I hit him with the trap game question. But, Candy, go ahead and paint the picture for the sense of humor that Coach Peterson has.
So Scott, in his journalistic type question, says, I've got a 3-part question. And Doug goes, wait a minute, go slow. I'm not that
He loves ice cream too.
Yeah. And then, of course, I hit him with it. Then I wasn't allowed a follow-up question with Trevor Lawrence, but whatever, because of time constraints. So with that said, Steve, you being the old journalist here, what are your thoughts about what the Jaguars did?
Well, I think it was a very exciting football game. And, the Jaguars are starting to get it figured out. I mean, they didn't start off well this year. But, they're starting to get it figured out. They have a good coach now. They're learning how to win. And, these last, I'd say, month or so, Trevor Lawrence is starting to get it figured out a lot more. I keep hearing something.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think he's starting to get it figured out. Things are looking much better for them. I think in a year or so, they're going to be making some noise in the AFC.
Well, we have a comment from a guy named Travis Holmes. And you know what, Candy, put that on the screen. I met Travis Holmes over at the game. He's going to be one of our contributor coming up here on Inside the Pigskin and the Sports Exchange. Travis is a super nice guy. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking forward to he's another one of our future teammates. So Candy, keep putting his stuff up. And Mel, Steve, Rick, everybody, get familiar with Travis Holmes. He will be on here with us one day for sure. So he was at the game, and I've met a lot of great people in venues and so forth. So
can I say something to Travis? He's throwing more interceptions than any quarterback right now in a short week span. So I love you, Travis, but it is what it is with him.
All right. So with that said, okay, Steve, you got all your comments in about the Jags game before I turn over to Mel?
Yes.
Anything you want to add? All right, Mel, take it from there.
Well, it shouldn't surprise anybody that Jacksonville's playing this well. I mean, Doug Peterson's a good coach. Why he got fired from Philadelphia, I really don't know. I think there was some conflict between him and management, ownership, or something. I'm not really sure. But I mean, the guy was just a couple seasons removed from taking Philadelphia to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. So we know that he's capable of coaching, and we know who his quarterback was, and what he was able to do with that quarterback, who has not found any success since he's left Philadelphia. So you get him a good quarterback, and with his philosophy, the way he deals with people, it's no surprise that Jacksonville. I don't think anybody here is surprised. Maybe it's surprised that it happened this quickly, but I don't think anybody's surprised with the success that Doug Peterson is having down there in Jacksonville. For Dallas, obviously, you'd rather lose now than in the postseason. And if you're going to have a hiccup, now is the time to have that hiccup, because when you have that hiccup 4 weeks from now, that means you're on your way home. It's vacation time to hit Cancun. So maybe it's a wake up call for the Cowboys. They're maybe starting to believe a lot of the press clippings about themselves, and ran into took this team lightly. So if you're going to lose a game, now is the time to lose it. Get that get that out the way, and now focus on finishing the season strong, and then making sure you get into playoffs and take advantage of that.
Yeah, not that I really care to promote other platforms, but the only one that couldn't hear Stephen A. Smith squawking would be those that aren't paying attention. And he doesn't care for the Cowboys, and he's made his feelings known throughout the week. But yet, to Stephen A.'s credit, he is saying that Dan Campbell should be considered for Coach of the Year. But, and that's a rare compliment coming from a guy like him. And we know kneecaps, you're wearing it. But with all due respect, the Cowboys have been getting ridiculed all over national media as well. And, rightfully so. I asked Coach Peterson whether or not he felt it was a trap game, with the people and your program. And he had a really good answer for it. We'll break it down eventually. But, they're not going to be a trap game for too many more teams. And I can say this before I turn over to you, Jeremy. Before it's all said and done, I don't know if I'll be alive to see it anyways, but Doug Peterson was such an outstanding fit in Jacksonville. This guy bound to have a statue in front of TIAA main stadium before it's all said and done. You talk about the best fit possible. He's a down-to-earth guy. I enjoyed my time with Coach Peterson as well as everybody else there. The guy is as intelligent as he could. And, it was interesting to watch Candy's reaction, because she's got Peterson, who has 2 Super Bowls against McCarthy, but we'll turn that over to her in a minute. But Jeremy, give me your thoughts about the Jaguars' incredible victory over the Cowboys. We're not hearing you.
Can't hear you, Jeremy.
Sorry.
All right.
Great game for the Jaguars. They got there, tied it up, got to overtime, and that pick was 100% a bad pass by Dak Prescott. That being said, whether it's Dak Cousins or Kirk Prescott, neither team are going to win a game in the postseason, because they both choke in the postseason. Both of them have 2 wins in primetime or playoffs, and the rest of them are losses.
Fair enough. All right, Candy.
Okay, so to go back to your question, Mr. Scott, that you asked Doug Peterson, do you want to see this get to the point where the Jacksonville Jaguars are no longer a trap game, that people are going to start taking your program a whole lot more seriously? Doug's response: well, I don't get into a lot of that, as much as I want our team to understand that we need to be playing meaningful football games in December and January. And we've put ourselves in that position. So I'm proud of the guys for doing that. Our season could have gone sideways 3-4 weeks ago, and the guys weren't going to let that happen. I don't get caught up in all those storylines and all that coulda, shoulda, wouldas. It's just a matter of those guys in the dressing rooms believing in themselves and getting the job done. On a side note, do you know what the Philadelphia Eagles did on yesterday? They sent 35 cheesesteaks sandwiches over to the Jacksonville Jaguars, thanking them for beating the Dallas Cowboys. And yeah,
Excellent gesture.
they
Excellent
did it.
gesture.
I thought so too. And they did it with a local delicatessen store in Jacksonville. It wasn't like they shipped them down from Philadelphia. So I thought that was in good jest, sending down 35 cheesesteaks and 25 large order of fries, thanking the Jags for beating the Cowboys.
Well,
They
you know what?
kudos
I'm
to
going to
them.
say what I said before. I enjoy Coach Peterson, and the guy has a heck of a sense of humor. And thanks, Candy, for providing that one. That was good. All right. Well, as we continue to move forward here on Inside the Pigskin, you know, Candy, I know you talked about this on Chicks and Salsa. We're going to address it again. But, you know, this is really unbelievable. Jeff Saturday loses on Saturday. The Colts' historic record-breaking collapse 33-0. What's there to say? Well, I didn't have to write a lot down for this because I figure I got enough voices doing my talking for me.
Oh,
All right,
I wanna
a.k.a.
start.
Mr. Opinion. Go ahead. Lead it off. I like the order we're going in.
I mean, are we surprised by this? I mean, he was on ESPN. He has no experience. I thought Jim Irsay. I thought this was an April Fool's joke. I wasn't surprised when they fired their coach, and I thought, oh, Gus Bradley will be the head coach, the interim coach. Yeah, that's okay. He was there with Jacksonville, head coaching experience. Jeff Saturday. I just saw him on ESPN 30 minutes ago, and it was like, just you scratch your head, like, are you kidding me? So are we surprised by this? No. I love Jeff Saturday. He's a great guy, but he has no experience. I mean, you might as well put me in there. I mean, it's just he showed the inexperience. We've seen it, and that was a travesty. How can you be up by that many points and lose? And it's just like
Prevent defense.
yeah. I mean, it's just
Prevent you from winning.
why are we surprised by this? I'm not surprised, and he'll be the first head coach named Jeff Saturday who went on Saturday. He might be fired on Saturday too. So we'll see what happens.
He should be fired. He should
All
be
right.
He
fired.
should never
today.
been the coach. You go back to ESPN. I love Jeff Saturday, but this was like the biggest dumb thing I've seen since the Raider game last week, or the forward lateral.
Well, don't worry. Don't give it away. That's the next one.
All
So
right.
leave it alone. I don't mind your segues. You're attempting to be a broadcaster and all that, Rick. I know where you're coming from. Considering where the heck you came from anyways, you're starting to make me look like a genius for training you, and I don't take praise, except if you want to send me a check to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. I'll take it that way, or Tribune South. I'll accept it that way. All right, Steve Ballesteri. I don't know what to think of this. Katie and I went for a bite to lunch, and we ended up sitting there watching all of it on Saturday. All right, Jeff, you ever seen anything like it?
I'm here to tell you that was a shocker, because at halftime I'm like,
Not really.
how the heck is this team down 33-0 for the Colts? And then, like you said, I went to get something to eat, and I was away from the television for a little while. When I came back, I was like, what? I mean, it was insane. That game was insane, and you could sense it coming, because once it got to a certain level, I was like, the Colts are going to blow this game, and Minnesota's going to take it home, because you could feel it. I mean, you saw it was like a perfect 180, and everything they did right in the first half, they were doing pretty wrong in the second half. And, they just got hot, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah, it was too surreal. All right, Mel, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I don't know what his halftime speech was, but it wasn't very good. And I don't know what his strategy was when he came out in the second half, other than just to hang on. And, you got to keep playing. Whatever you did in the first half is the same stuff you got to do in the second half. And I think they forgot that we played 60 minutes and not 30 minutes. And I think they may have been in there celebrating and popping bottles at halftime and forgot they had to go out there and play another half. But it's pretty amazing. I just happened to, I didn't see any of the game. I just happened to see the highlights and saw they had this historic comeback. It's pretty amazing. I mean, that's pretty tough to do, considering the fact that those other guys get paid too. That's a heck of a feat, and that's really terrible meltdown on behalf of the Colts to allow that to happen. I mean, those guys get a check as well. And Jeff Saturday, from my understanding, is getting a check too. So I don't know what he was doing in the second half. And I mean, that's just terrible. I mean, some point in time, you have to see the wheels are falling off here, and hey, we got to do something different to hang on. But it just seemed like he just evidently, obviously, he was just trying to hang on, and hoping that time would expire, and when he opened up his eyes, they would have still been ahead. But unfortunately, that's not the way it works in the NFL. I mean, Minnesota has a lot to play for. They have a lot on the line. Got a new coach there. Guys are hungry, and for whatever reason, Indianapolis came out in the second half and laid an egg.
Yeah, Candy's going to go ahead and read my comments about Doug Pederson when it's her turn. But I asked him about the old Minnesota comeback as well as Yogi Berra. But go ahead, Jeremy. What's your take on that?
If anyone was surprised by this, evidently they forgot the Super Bowl where Matt Ryan was leading 28-3 at the end of the third quarter when Tom Brady had his big comeback. 33-0 is not safe with Matt Ryan as your quarterback. Between a prevent defense and his poor decision-making late in games, it's a bad combination. It's less on Jeff Saturday. I picture, I can hear the voice at the beginning of the My Name is Earl show. Except you show Matt Ryan laying on his back, being sacked, throwing the football, and it says, "Hi, my name is Matt Ryan, and I bet you wonder how I got here."
All right, well, you know what? Before I turn over to Candy, Travis has another good comment I want to put up there. The Vikings went from calling 70% zone in the first half to 60% man in the second, but also didn't the Colts have only had one offensive TV out of those 33 points.
It was two. I get it.
Yeah, good point. All right, we'll turn it over to Ken. What'd you come up with?
So I'll get to yours in a minute. Managed 102 yards of offense in the second half. Their defense gave up 436 yards in halftime. I don't understand how you go from scoring like you did in the first half to not being able to score in the second half. You can't tell me that Minnesota at halftime made that many good adjustments and that you can't make any adjustments. And then I'm not even going to get started on overtime because I kept arguing with different plays going forward during the overtime. But going to your question, Scott, your question was Yogi Berra had the old saying, "It's not official, it's over." We saw what happened with the game yesterday with Minnesota and Indianapolis. Is there any kind of halftime speech when you know you're behind by a lot, especially against a top-tier football team? Doug Pederson's response: "Listen, I've been around this game a long time, from my dad coaching me in Pee Wee League till now. There's no magical speeches. There's no words you can say. It just comes down to the players. We talk about players making plays. These guys are playing with a lot of confidence. They're playing together. They're playing complementary football." And evidently, Indy was not playing any complementary anything in the second half.
Okay, that's good enough. All right, well, Steve, obviously it's a topic that you probably weren't waiting for.
I have.
But you have been. But we're going to start off with Rick because we're going to leave you there. I mean, hey, listen, I told you guys when we had a lot of good stuff going into the finale this year, I meant it. So, and we always try to do anyways, but, this has just been such an exceptional week with the triple header that we had on Saturday, let alone the good Thursday night game, plus what culminated on Sunday. But we all know by now about the New England Patriots epic lateral for the ages that gave the Raiders a 30-24 win. I'm getting tongue-tied with that score, and that 30-24 score was a popular one over the weekend. All right, Rick, this was in Stanford recreated, but I don't know what it was, but I know the only thing it was a New England loss. Josh McDaniels beat Belichick in the weirdest way possible.
It was the Raiders season has just been so bizarre. They've blown so many leads, and then they have a win like this. This is the most stupidest, most idiotic play. I thought the Leon when he was ready for the touchdown and BB came and slapped it. I thought that is the most idiotic play that I've ever seen. And it's like, hold my beer. because a 4-0 lateral, I mean, you only do that when you're trailing and you're trying to keep the ball alive. You don't do that in a tie when you're getting ready to go to overtime. I have no idea what they're thinking about. Belichick is probably beside himself. And that was the most weirdest, most strangest, the most idiotic play I've ever seen in all of sports. And I've seen a lot of dumb plays in sports. So I don't get it. The announcers were baffled. They're like, I don't understand why he did that. I don't either. It was crazy, weird, and I probably will never see anything like that again. So it was definitely a crazy, crazy day in football. And we're not even talking about the Tampa Bay. They choked too in that game too. I saw that whole game. That was another tale of another
Rick,
half.
I have a feeling that you have a crystal ball that you're looking at what my topics are. So, maybe you might be coming down here to Florida sooner or later and start looking at this stuff, because somehow most people have 2 eyes, but your 4 eyes look like they're 8 eyes, and your 8 eyes look like they're 16 eyes.
Make it a segue.
Well, don't worry. I will after I get to 4 other people. But all right. Good jobs, Rick. You and Jeremy on a roll for different reasons tonight. But anyways, you guys are used to working with each other on Wednesdays, even though there won't be an exchange tomorrow. All right. Well, Steve Ballister, the only thing I can say is while Rick Curdy attempts to create segues with a minimal amount of journalistic experience, we will use that segue, Steve, to give you the floor on this one. Good stuff, Rick.
This
Thank you.
was, I sat there and, there was a very, I'd say, questionable touchdown before that, which they tied the game. But that has nothing to do with this, because, the Patriots got the ball and they were just running the football, killing the clock. And I get it. They're playing for overtime. And, Ramondre Stevenson actually had a fantastic game. He ran for 172 yards. And I'm thinking to myself, they're in good shape going into overtime, because that Raider defense is getting gashed on the ground. And what better way to win in overtime is by leaning on that running game when guys are getting tired. And then, they ran that draw play. At that point, I was like, why are you running a draw now? Why don't you just take a knee? Because bad things can happen when you run the ball, when you're not going to score at this point. And, then Stevenson broke into the secondary, and I was like, wow, he has that's physical toughness that maybe he could break it. But once I saw him surrounded, by 3 or 4 tacklers, I'm like, okay, just go down, play for OT. And when I saw him lateral it, I was like, this is not going to end well. I could see it. This isn't going to end well. And then Jacoby Myers, who's a really good player, he did the unfathomable, because he threw the ball backwards 20 yards toward Mac Jones. And when you look at the tape, and I have several times, there's nobody behind Mac Jones. So he can't lateral it back. And, and if you're thinking Mac is going to run 50 yards through 11 guys, I want some of that, because it's got to be some good stuff you're smoking. So there was absolutely no reason to do that. The boneheadedest play I have ever seen. That's better than that fake punt the Colts try to run on the Patriots when they had no blockers. The Colts are off the hook on that one, because this one takes the cake. And I'll tell you how bad it was. The Patriots radio crew, the color guy, Scott Zolak, was a quarterback for New England. Yeah. And if you've ever heard a Patriots game on the radio, Scott is considered a homer, and I think that's putting it really lightly. He said after the game, this is the dumbest football team I've ever seen.
Really?
And I'll tell you what, earlier in the game, I don't know if any of you guys happen to watch it, the Patriots had a great drive. They went 87 yards. They're on the 3-yard line, 1st and goal. They ran Stevenson up the middle. Now they're on the 1-foot line. And Matt Patricia, Jeremy and I have talked about Patricia, and I'll get to that in a second. he's been so conservative this year to the point of like ridiculousness. Now he decides he wants to get creative. They're second and goal on the 1 foot line, and now he wants to run these exotic things where he's throwing the football. And I'm like, you have Ramondre Stevenson, who's a battering ram, and you only need a foot. And he decides he's going to throw it. And of course, everything gets discombobulated. And I'm like, the offense, the Patriots, has reached the point that this is rock bottom. But as somebody said earlier, hold my beer for a second, because then they came up with this lateral play. It was absolutely stupid. And then Bill Belichick, after the game, was asked about it, and he said, "We made a mistake." Made a mistake. Like, that's like saying that I wrote in my post-game call. That's like saying the Titanic had an ice problem. I mean,
bit of fender bender.
Like this team, it has really offensively. This team has bottomed out. And I was talking.
We're simpatico, I got to tell you, because I had Matt Patricia on the brain for this topic before it even came up.
Yes. Well, during our regular podcast that I do, we were talking about, this was prior to the game. We were talking about Matt Patricia. And, you know, my two co-hosts weren't too pleased with Patricia's job so far this year, to put it lightly. And I said, I was just on a podcast with a guy from the Lions not too long ago. And he said he talked to him as Matt Patricia. And one of my co-hosts was taking a drink of coffee, and he went into a fit of coughing. It went all over the place. And they were like, that is classic. So you're going to be asked to be on a Patriots podcast in the near future, my friend.
I want to be on it.
I have to ask you this, though, Steve. How'd your buddy Bob Sochi handle this one? And Candy, what I want you to do is put Dan Davis's most recent one up there about overtime. But go ahead, Steve.
But if you listen to the call on the Patriots Radio Network, Bob was so shocked that he could barely talk, because he was just like, you know, it was like he didn't know what he was seeing. And it was actually, I have to say, it was comical. It was so bad that I couldn't get mad about it. I had to just laugh, because I was like, this is really, I've never seen a team this stupid. I mean, you know, during the Patriots 20-year run, we used to make fun of teams that did stupid stuff like this, like the Colts and that fake punt, whatever, with two guys on the line of scrimmage, and, you know. And now it's like Bill Belichick forever will have this hanging over his head, because when people have football follies, they're going to say this was the dumbest, and that's going to be attached to him.
All right, Mel.
That's it's embarrassing. I mean, I don't know why they just didn't take a knee. I don't know why he called a play, what he was trying to do. Maybe he's hoping he'd bust it up the middle and take it all the way. I don't know. But, you know, that evidently there was something that was said on the sideline, something they've been practicing, maybe. I don't know, because players just don't.
Said after the game that there was supposed to be no lateraling involved. They were just going to run a straight throw.
And so if it was wide open, if the Red Sea parted, great. If it didn't, I mean, they didn't tell him what to do. Obviously, at some point in time, they had to rehearse this, or maybe the guy owed some money to his bookie. I don't know. But that's. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because there was no need to do it. There was no reason to do it. If the Red Sea doesn't part and you can't hit your head on the goalpost, then hey, let's play for overtime. That, you know, for Josh McDaniel, obviously he's fortunate, because he's going to have. I mean, he did have a conversation with Mark Davis, but he's going to have a real conversation with Mark Davis if they ended up losing that game. again, I mean, they get out to a lead and they just can't hold a lead for some reason or another. The Raiders cannot hold on to a lead. They can't extend the lead. That's a problem. That's something that they're going to have to deal with. They're going to have to figure out. Even though Vegas won, they probably feel like they lost, to be honest with you, because this has been happening to them too often. Where they've gotten ahead early and end up losing the game in the final quarter. I mean, they got to learn how to finish games. So, but that's embarrassing. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. I couldn't believe it really when I saw the replay, what I was seeing, and I was trying to say, well, did that happen in overtime? And when did that happen? If the score is tied up, why are they doing all that?
Exactly.
I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I think that Pop Warner kids know better than that, to be honest with you.
Well, we have another comment in the chat room from a guy that we're all too familiar with here on South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network named Brett Gardepy. And Brett appears on Fire Up Wisconsin, and we brought him on last week's edition of the Sports Exchange. Thanks for joining us. Well, yeah, we're really enjoying the activity in the chat room tonight. We have Travis Holmes, thanks for being here, Big Dan Davis, and now Brett. Welcome to all of you guys. You make my life easier. All I have to do is read this stuff and get it up there, and you guys get to react to it. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little miffed at what happened there. But considering Matt Patricia's on staff, maybe I shouldn't be miffed at much of anything. But I'm not stealing Jeremy's thunder. Jeremy's he's learning patience as we go along when we have these big crews. So now, Jeremy, the floor is yours. Remember, Candy's behind you.
Well, she'll be laughing because Matt Patricia drew up some sort of mad, stupidest rocket science play I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, I think he tried to take that play that Ben Johnson used last year with the double flea flicker on the double reverse where Tom Kennedy threw it 75 yards total to Khalif Raymond to win the one game. It was on that par. But the problem is, I don't think Mac Jones knew the ball was coming, or he might have got in front of Chandler Jones because it was bad. It was bad. I mean, when Mac Jones was falling down and Chandler Jones was the only one that was going to catch it, I was like, I think I'm watching some sort of NFL Follies replay of a game in the past because this don't look like modern NFL. Matt Patricia. Oh, what can I say? The world's dumbest rocket scientist in the world.
Well, you seem to be making a name for himself on your knee-biting thing by utilizing the Matt Patricia. And if you ever get enough money down the road, you can actually trademark the darn thing and make some even more money. But trademarking is expensive. Take it from somebody that knows what the Motor City Man mouth. But boy, you're making a name out the Matt Patricia. But Patricia, now you got me saying it both ways because Steve's inviting you, so you're doing pretty good, Jeremy. All right, we'll turn over to Candy. Go ahead.
So on a podcast, Brady talked a little bit about this. He talked a little bit about the joyous scenes of Argentina winning the World Cup. And he said, in America, our sporting events bring so many people together. It's great to see, Brady said. Everyone feels a part of it. It's live. It's in the moment. There is very emotion. I was watching the Raiders game and I saw that last play. It's like, oh my God, it's so bad. And then, oh my God, it's so good. Where else in life do things like that happen? I've been on the winning end of those. I go crazy. You don't even know what to feel. I was watching that game and I'm like, okay, no offense. I've never played football, but I've watched enough of it and been a part of it. And I'm like, who in that, before that play in the huddle, what was said? Like, you're already tied. You don't need, I was speechless. I was yelling. I was like, I cannot believe that just happened.
Well, I'm speechless just listening to you guys, so it doesn't matter. I'm also speechless to know that I got to defer back to Curdy because he knew the next subject without looking at the notes. So I'm going to do it again, okay? All right, Rick, see me segueing me all the time. But Candy, before we do that, Big Dan is at it again. So let's go ahead and give Jeremy his rah-rah business before I go to the next one so we can all laugh at that. Take it for whatever you want there, Steve. you guys can read it. I don't read this stuff. We just put it out there for people to look at. So, you guys getting anything out of Big Dan Davies is on a roll today, or what?
Yeah, he's Patricia. We all know that he's a terrible coach. We've seen the Belichick tree, and it's not very good. The only one that's done a good job is Bill O'Brien. All the rest have been bad.
Okay. All right. Well, our last subject of the night before I talk about some pertinent news items will be Tom Brady has lost 8 games for the first time. Cincinnati's comeback win over the Bucs was unlike anything we've seen during Tom Brady's career. Tom Brady is now 89-1, went up by 17 plus points at home. Cincinnati 34-23. Rick alluded to it. Well, my goodness, there you go. Now you get your 2 cents on this one, Rick. But before you do that, Brett Gardepy, hey, as a Packer fan, he was great. One less team to worry about in the NFC North with him around. All right, so go. All right, Rick, the floor is yours.
Well, I've said this before. Tom Brady should have retired when he won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. The man has nothing to prove, and he cannot stop playing. It's like he's addicted to it. When he announced his retirement, I said, oh, good, thank God he's leaving. Because I'm sick of seeing him. I'm sick of hearing about him. I don't want to play. And now he's like he's a 45-year-old man. He looks like a 45-year-old man. And the more he stays, the more he's going to look bad. He is constantly contradicted himself so many times in his interviews. He said that he wanted to get out of the game. He didn't want to miss seeing his kids grow up. That's not true. He said he would retire once he couldn't be an elite player anymore. That's not true because he's not elite anymore. He still thinks he's like the Tom Brady of old, and he's not. He's an old man. He should retire. He threw 2 costly interceptions. That was a bad game, and losing Gronkowski hurt him. I think he thought he would come back and give it another shot. And Gronkowski is the opposite. He wants to get out of the game, make his money, and I'm gone and doing other things. Tom cannot stop playing. He should retire. Should have retired already. Is it going to hurt his legacy? Not really, because people are going to think about all the greatness he's done, but he doesn't look good. And then he's thinking about maybe coming back again next year. He's contemplating it, but it's not going to end up good for Tom. So, and it was not a good game at all. And kudos to Joe Burrow and Cincinnati. I think maybe Matt Ryan was disguised as Tom Brady, and maybe that's why the Buccaneers blew that lead.
All right, we'll turn over to Mel.
Yeah, I really hate how this season is going, particularly for Todd Bowles. I think that Bruce Arians thought he was teeing it up for his guy to be able to have a Super Bowl run here with a veteran team, but they've had some injuries. But the biggest thing is people have figured out how to get to Tom Brady, and they also understand that Tom Brady doesn't want to get hit. And if you bring some pressure up the middle, he can't move. He's not going anywhere. If you get some pressure in his face, it makes it very, very difficult for Tom Brady to do the type of things that he wants to do. They don't throw the ball downfield because Tom Brady doesn't want to hold on to the ball long enough to throw the ball downfield because he does not want to get hit. I watched the way that they attack the tackles. There's no speed rush. It's just collapsing. And these guys are just catching, and then next thing you know, they end up in a lap in Tom Brady's lap. And as long as unfortunately, you can see that age is starting to catch up with Tom because Tom really, really, truly does not want to get hit. And you see, there's a lot of frustration there with him, Byron Leftwich, some of the play calling. He doesn't look like he's having fun. That's for sure. So, do I expect to see Tom Brady play again next year? I couldn't say. I really don't think so. I hope not. It cost him a lot to continue to play. It cost him a whole lot for him to continue to play. You want to see a guy like him, go out on his own terms. But he had an opportunity to do that a couple years ago when he won the Super Bowl down in Tampa Bay, or with in Tampa at the stadium in Tampa, and he really has nothing to prove. I don't know why he continues to play. He has nothing to prove. That team is not very good. They're hurt. They don't run the ball very well. Defensively, they're not the same as they used to be. And there are a lot better teams in the NFC than Tampa Bay, and it's going to be very, very difficult for them. I mean, they play in a poor division. Nobody's above 500 in that division, so they're going to have a chance to get to the playoffs. But what are they going to be able to do once they get there? Because every team that they face they're going to be good football teams.
Okay, we'll turn over to Steve. Can you hear me, Steve? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and Candy, send him a message that he's up. All right, Steve. We'll talk about Tom Brady. Steve? All right, we'll try.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll hear you.
There we go.
All right.
Okay, yeah. My internet's going in and out, but I heard most of what Mel said, and I agree. I mean, Tampa has no running game this year, and that's what was a big part of their offense the year they won the Super Bowl. I mean, with no running game, the offensive line's been banged up. And teams know they're going to throw the ball, and he's just not up to the task right now. I mean, even his trusted receivers chemistry this year.
Yeah, I mean, let's face the reality. All right, Jeremy.
Sorry, I made a comment in the private chat that made me lose it a little bit. But
No,
anyways,
tell me something new.
Brady should have hung it up last year when he said he was going to, but after being at home and the honey-do list kept growing and the kids weren't listening and arguing back and forth, he said, F these kids, I'm playing football, and that's why they're divorced.
Okay, that's fair enough. All right, Candy.
Tom's used to winning, and he's come out and said, in life, you're not entitled to winning. No one's guaranteed tomorrow. You know, what is it teaching him now? You know, why should we feel like we're just entitled to win all the time? We're not. That's just not what life's all about. I think he's actually learning some life lessons this year that might be hard to digest. And he's lost a lot this year. So will he come back next year? I think he will, because I think he still has that desire to play the game. And until he's done with that desire, he'll be on the field.
Well, they got $375 million coming from Fox whenever he wants to take it. That's for sure. But if he does come back, I don't see it in a Tampa uniform. I can see him going somewhere else. I'll leave it at that. All right. Well, I'm going to go over some pertinent news items here that I think are really worth bringing up. And you guys are free to comment on them after I get done listing them, because I have 5 pretty intriguing ones. The NCAA is granting Oregon's tight end Cam McCormick a 9th year of eligibility. And yes, I repeat, 9th year of eligibility. Hugh Freeze of Auburn is going to keep Cadillac Williams as his associate head coach. More power to him. Cadillac Williams did a good job, and I'm glad that Hugh Freeze is going to keep him on his staff. I had a chance to see this guy earlier, but Frank Gore Jr. had 329 rushing yards in Southern Mississippi's bowl win. Now, another interesting point of note here, Justin Herbert has become the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 4,000 plus yards in each of his first 3 seasons in the league. And another one that I found pretty interesting that doesn't get much publicity is the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, the Bluefields, Boise State. You have Eastern Michigan 41-27 over the San Jose State Spartans. Why am I mentioning this? Because a guy like Jeremy's on. We're so used to talking about the Michigan State Spartans. Kudos to the San Jose State Spartans in Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan doesn't get a lot of love, but got to throw them on here anyways. Once upon a time, I think they were named the Hurons, but because they got upset with all the Indian business, they decided to make them, I think, the Eagles or something like that. So
right.
So if I understand correct. So I gave you 5 little nuggets. Each and every one of you can comment on any of them. I think the most intriguing one out there is the NCAA granting Oregon's tight end Cam McCormick his 9th year of eligibility. I never knew that you could go 9 years in college, but it just goes to show you what you live and learn with all these red shirts, blue shirts, white shirts, whatever you want to call them, for every exception. This guy here, no disrespect, because old-time TV was good. Welcome back, Cotter, with all the sweat hogs, but this guy is not a sweat hog, and if he's sweating, it's not like that anyway. So anybody want to take a stab at Oregon's tight end McCormick? Go ahead, Jeremy.
Well, I mean, if he gets drafted, what's he going to be, like 32 years old?
Yeah, right. Another Chris
19 years
Linky,
old.
right?
Wait, no. He will be exactly 28 years old after he's graduated. So it will be Brandon Whedon at the tight end position, a guy that won't be able to run, won't be able to block, probably not even catch the ball because he's so old. He already passed his prime before he goes in. Good Lord. It makes no sense. I understand a 5th or 6th year.
I thought I
because of
was
the
the
whole
only guy
COVID thing in.
that 9 years.
Hey, listen, it took me 5 years to get through 4 years of college. I guess that was probably the norm back then. But anyways, Red
Our
Garden.
generation partied a lot. That's understandable, Scott.
Well, not me. I paid my way through school and working at the Tampa Tribune. It took me every ounce of that coin to get through. All right, I'm going to go on to Mel Farah. He likes talking about coaching things. So, Mel, give me your take on Hugh Freeze keeping Cadillac Williams as the associate head coach.
I think that was a mandate, wasn't it? That was part of the deal that Cadillac was going to be there, wasn't it? I thought it was.
He said in his press conference he was going to keep him.
Yeah, but I think the university wanted Cadillac to stay there as well. I mean, I think that was a part of the deal that, hey, you can come here, but Cadillac's got to stay. He's not going anywhere, and I think that's good. I mean, Cadillac seems like he seems like a great man. He did a good job for the university while he was the interim head coach, but I think he has a lot of respect from the players, and I think they wanted to keep him to try to keep some continuity with the recruiting as well. The last thing you want to do is have a dip in your recruiting, especially in the SEC. Where it's extremely competitive. So I'm glad to see Cadillac have an opportunity to stay on and continue his coaching career, and also to continue mentoring young men.
Well, I'm happy Frank Gore Jr. is following the footsteps of his father, but 329 rushing yards at 3 football fields plus. That's unbelievable. I don't care what level of competition. If it's at the FBS level, it's still pretty good. And, Frank Gore, we all know, I know from the Miami days, suffered 2 knee injuries and had an incredible career. So, and he actually started out at FAU and then transferred over to Southern Mississippi. Do you have some thoughts on that, Jeremy?
Yeah, not only did Frank Gore Jr. have a fantastic day, 329 yards, I don't care who you are, what level you're playing at. Defense is supposed to stop you eventually. Evidently, that defense doesn't know how. There's another defense that struggled to stop a running back over the weekend, and that was Jordan Menza from Fresno State. Washington State that O-line made wider lanes than the Lions O-line did for our running backs. I mean, he ran for 210 yards and 2 scores in that game where Fresno State kind of housed the Washington State Cougars.
Okay. All right. And of course, a subject that probably could have been a topic, but I mentioned it, Justin Herbert, 4,000 plus yards. All you guys want to take a crack at that one? I don't care. Go ahead, Rick.
He's a great quarterback. I've heard people say Herbert's not really playing that good this year. He's a great quarterback. I really honestly didn't know how he would do. I saw him play when he was a quarterback at Oregon. And I was like, he could be a star or he could be a bust. I'm not sure about him. And I'm actually really, really surprised how great he's become at a short period of time. He's setting records everywhere. And to be the first quarterback, you have Marino and Brady. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Joe Montana. He's the first to have his first 3 seasons, 4,000 yards or more. That's super duper impressive.
No.
Well, I watched him. Obviously, I watched him play a little bit in college too. And you look at, he has all the physical traits of a quarterback. He's got a big arm, smart kid, very, very smart, very intelligent kid. Played a lot of big time football. I'm not really surprised by what I see him doing in the NFL. It's kind of funny, these pundits always want to try to crown the heir apparent. A lot of a player's success has to do with where he goes and the consistency and the continuity in the coaching staff. And he happens to be in a good situation where he's had, I think, the same coach there. I think he had one coach, Anthony Lynn was there, and then the guys that he has now. So he's had some consistencies and some continuity, and they probably got rid of Anthony Lynn because they didn't feel that he was going to be good for his development. So they got somebody in there who they felt would be good for his development. Although he's on the defensive side of the ball, they brought Lombardi in from New Orleans, and to bring in that New Orleans type of offense and to groom this kid. So a lot of it is the luck of the draw. A lot of these guys could be these guys that are playing very, very well could easily have been bust just by their draft position, where they end up getting drafted. Mac Jones looked great last year. This year he's not looking so good. And it's because of the decision that Bill Belichick made. He's hindering this kid's development. This year is going to be really a year you just have to just turn the page on, because it's just a waste, because he hasn't learned anything. He hasn't taken that step forward this year, because he really hasn't had anybody to really coach him up on the position. So yeah, I'm not really surprised. I mean, I saw he had the intangibles when he was playing in college. Big arm, looks good getting off the bus. He looks like the what you would want in a player at that position. And now he's getting an opportunity with the coaching staff and the players that he has around him to live up to his potential.
Steve?
Yeah, I think he's had a great start to his career. And, like everyone always says, the draft is not a scientific thing. You can't put a number on, you can look at a kid in college and say, okay, he's got this, and this, but you don't know if that's going to be his peak, if that's as good as he's going to be, or you can take that next step. And a lot of guys, the guys that have failed, haven't been able to do that for one reason or another. And I think, the drive of some guys to just keep improving, and, they take to coaching well. This is a kid that seems to just relish getting better every week, because I think you can watch that. His first 3 seasons have been absolutely amazing. And I think he's destined for great things. And if they can surround him with enough players and, skill position guys, if they can afford him, because he's going to get paid in a few years, then that team could be going places.
Jeremy?
Justin Herbert, he's a great quarterback. He has been a great quarterback. He will continue to be a great quarterback. The only reason why he had a bad year his last year at Oregon is because they switched coaching and offensive coordinators, and he was learning a brand new system all over again. It's not like he was a seasoned vet in the NFL, that dealt with like 6, 7 offensive coordinators in a 13-year career. But the problem is coaching around him, because either the coaching has got him to the midpoint, but not to the next level, or the coaching just doesn't even go to him. It's his talent that's got him to where he is right now.
Candy?
I think someone hit the nail on the head when they said, don't change all your coaches every year, because that just disrupts. I hate to say this, but let's face it. The Detroit Lions kind of wasted Matthew Stafford's career. They changed offensive coach, quarterback coach, all over the place. I think Justin Herbert's doing really well, and I think consistency will help that. The same with Trevor Lawrence. I think consistency, the same message, the same coaches.
That was exactly who I was talking about when I said 7 offensive coordinators in a 13-year career.
Well, and you know what? I'll even add Joey Harrington's career got wrecked in Detroit because of the lack of continuity with head coaches and offensive coordinators as well. So, I just want to end it on one final note here. Bob Ryan, obviously Steve knows him all too well, broke my heart when he said I couldn't use the Field of Dreams as a sports event that I went to, because I'm trying to hit as many states as I can with sports events. So you know what, Bob? I guess I got to get back to Iowa to see something else, because you really didn't drink the Kool-Aid with the Field of Dreams thing that I did there. But I'll tell you one thing that I am putting on my bucket list now is a famous Idaho Potato Bowl, so I can see those blue fields in Boise, Idaho. And I know Candy may not like it because you're going to need the long johns and the warm-ups. But my goodness, I'm going to Albertson Stadium, and I'm going to see those blue fields. And I think over in Eastern Washington, don't they have the red fields as well?
Yes.
So it's pretty interesting how you have a football field a different color and go from there. So I had to put the Idaho Potato Bowl in there. And our friends over at First Take, when you get Stephen A. Smith to talk about that, it's worth bringing on our platform. Not that I think he's a god, although he's really good. Okay, but I do generate ideas watching these other people to try to hopefully bolster how I go about being a student of this industry. So, but when he brought it up, I said, let's put it on this show and talk about the Idaho Potato Bowl, anyways, in the Blue Field. So, hey, I'm gonna tell you, they keep that bowl game going every year, and they seem to get some pretty good opponents. So, with that said, I know we've gone close to an hour and a half, but I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to come up with a parting shot, anyways, if you want to. And then we'll do the final intros, and Candy will take us home with all the rest of the company business. All right, Rick, give me your parting shot, or you can say anything with Christmas parting shot. The floor is yours, Rick.
Well, the Arizona Cardinals were eliminated in the playoffs. And you know what I say about that? Good. They deserve it. I hate this franchise. They sabotage Steve Wilkes after one season. You get rid of him after one season. You draft a first-round quarterback and trade him after one season. And coincidentally enough, Josh Rosen was signed to the practice squad with the Minnesota Vikings. So it's like, 8 teams? So, they're a train wreck of a team. Cliff Kingsbury is the most overrated coach in all of football. I mean, he was 6 games under 500 at Texas Tech, and his only claim to fame is that I coached Patrick Mahomes. Big deal. Who cares? So, you know what, Arizona Cardinals, you deserve everything you have. You have a franchise quarterback who cares more about video games than reading his own playbook, who's immature and needs to grow up like a Zach Wilson. He's another spoiled, entitled person. Cliff Kingsbury needs to go. He stinks. He never should have been a head coach in the NFL. He hadn't done nothing. So good for you. I'm glad you're getting everything you deserve. Bye-bye.
All right, Mal, what do you have?
Rick, you get everything off your chest?
Yeah, a little bit. I need to come out of my shell a little bit more, so I apologize.
You okay? I'm a little worried about you. I'm a little angry.
You need to come see my PTSD doctor with me.
Hey, Rick, if you do that, just remember, though, Steve's off I-75, on the Gulf side of the state. He's not up in Boston, so you have to come.
You're not going to see me with a Kyler Murray jersey or a Zach Wilson jersey. I'll put it that way.
Judging by the way you're saying it, I could hardly tell, even though you've actually pretended that your Halloween disguise is a broadcaster night, because you seem to know every segue I have anyways. All right, Mal, go for it.
So 2 things. The NFL sent out a memo to the clubs to remind them that there's $800 million in salary that they're paying to coaches and front office executives who are no longer rendering any services for those clubs, and telling them to kind of be mindful, because we know what happens right after the season, what they call Black Monday, Fire Monday, whatever it is. We know a lot of coaches lose their jobs. On average, about 7 teams change coaches every year, and NFL is kind of telling folks, hey, pump the brakes a little bit, because we already know there's talk about the Denver coach getting fired. Lovie Smith, obviously his job is probably up in the air with the way that they performed so far this year. And of course, there's going to be a number of other coaches that are going to be let go as well. Some have already been let go. So the NFL is kind of telling, hey, maybe, before you go ahead on this firing spree, just, take a look at, what you have on the books already. And they kind of broke it down by team, how much you have on the books right now. I mean, the Giants are paying 3 coaches right now. They're paying 3 head coaches. They're paying the guy that's there now, Joe Judge, and Pat Shermer. They're still paying him. The other thing I want to talk about is UCLA flipped a quarterback that was headed to Oregon, and now he's coming to UCLA. He is from Michigan, went to King High School in Michigan, led the team to the state championship there. He's the number, depending on what publication you look at, he's in the ESPN. He's the number 3 rated player overall at the position. I think he's the 3 rated player overall. I think he's number 3 overall at the position too, because there's 2 quarterbacks ahead of him. The guy that's going to USC, Peyton Manning's nephew, Arch Manning, and then this kid here, number 1 player in the state of Michigan. And we're looking forward to great things, bigger and better things at UCLA.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, I saw that that same thing about the NFL with $800 million being paid to guys that are no longer working for the teams that paid that. And I was like, man, that'd be
A
a
lot of
good,
money.
I mean, if somebody wanted to pay me like 30 or 40 million to go away, sign me up, coach. But no, I just wanted to say, you know, and this being Christmas season, it's time to, you know, do what's the right thing with your loved ones and family, spend time with them, because as I found out this week, life is very short for some folks, and lost a couple people that, you know, was kind of a shock. So take care of each other and yourselves out there, and, you know, make sure that you spend as much time with your family as you can, because you never know.
Great stuff, Steve. All right, Jeremy.
I want to send out a personal thank you to Peyton Manning for the Peyton Places episode that happened right after Week 8's loss to Miami, because he grabbed Keegan, you know, the Peel, Keegan and Peel. Keegan is the one he grabbed, the one that announced the pick for us when we drafted Malcolm Rodriguez. He also grabbed Jeff Daniels and took him to Ford Field with a bathtub full of whiskey and salt, and did a curse lifting ceremony. And ever since then, the Lions have won 6-1 to have a 7-7 record and a half game out of the playoffs. Who holds the tiebreaker over those Packers too?
Okay.
Told you, Mel, they're going to go 9-8 this year.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, Candy, what's your parting shot?
So I know this is Inside the Pigskin, and I know this is a football show, but before Sunday's football games, there appeared a soccer game, and it was one of the better soccer games we have seen in World Cup history. Now, to the exciting fans that love the sport, they had a parade in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where the bus, what moved, they said, I think it was let me get that. It moved so slow that it was a snail's pace for more than 4 hours through the throngs of humanity. Before the overland parade was cut short, they put all the guys in helicopters and flew the helicopters over all the fans. Kudos to all those fans out there that were enjoying it. It's just too bad that they had to go to that level, because most of the fans then didn't get to see the World Cup or the players, because up in a helicopter, they're too high up. But what a great game. What a great way to start that crazy Sunday we had in the NFL.
Yeah, and what's interesting is before we saw the Jaguars game, they actually had the World Cup final in the press box, and we were watching it there. It was interesting when you walk in there, but the people in attendance got football and football all on the same day on Sunday. But my parting shot and comment is actually an interesting one. Up until Sunday, one of the greatest games I ever saw was when the Detroit Lions defeated the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football over at Texas Stadium. And I'm going to tell you, the Lions would end up winning it with a field goal. And I was on the field at Texas Stadium for 25 minutes. And it was just the most remarkable game that I've ever seen until Sunday. The Jacksonville Jaguars, and we reiterated it earlier, maybe Doug Pederson didn't look at it as a trap game and loves the storylines, even though he's got to hear them anyways. But I'm going to tell you what we saw on Sunday with the character of the Jacksonville Jaguars, to me, certainly puts this into discussion as one of the greatest football games in the NFL I've ever seen. And I've seen Super Bowls that were great too, so I probably lump them up there. But if I had to say one of the top 5 games that I've ever been a part of and covered, I can tell you right now, Sunday's Jacksonville 40-34 win over Dallas is definitely one of those that I can certainly remember. And if I never cover another football game again, although I expect to or hope to anyways, health provide, because I've had a lot of health challenges myself, I'm going to tell you, Sunday was just unreal. I can also realize how hard it was to get a hotel up there, and that Cowboys Nation travels well. Now, on the back end of the parting shot, I am so sick and tired of the Odell Beckham travel tour for a guy that may not even play this year. Odell, tell you what, when you're ready to play a regular season and you're feeling better, knock on doors. But I am sick and tired of hearing about whether you will play or not to play. The medical records are what they are. So the next time I hear from you, Odell, I want to hear about you when you're in a uniform instead of looking for a job. So that's what I have to say. So with that said, I'll go around the horn one more time, and then Candy will take us home with the company stuff. All right, Rick, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
You can find me on my website, www.charlottebats.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB, Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. Instagram is Charlotte Bats, and you can find me on LinkedIn under Rick Curdy. And my email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com if you have any questions.
Okay, we'll turn it over to you, Mel.
You can reach me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And then you can follow what we have going on here in Georgia and also up in Michigan for the youth at melfar.org.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, Steve B SFG on Twitter, also on Instagram, and then Facebook at Steve Balistreri. I also write for a military site, which I just had a couple of things posted today. And you can always find me on Twitter or Facebook, because life's never boring in the football world.
Oh, and that's the truth. And you know what, Steve? I'm glad that you were able to make it to our last edition of Inside the Pigskin for 2022. So it's really glad. I know you're a regular staple on the show with Mel and I. And of course, we'll bring Jennifer in some point later. And of course, Jeremy's making his way all over the place anyhow. But that said, I'll segue to Jeremy. Go ahead.
Well, you, as you well know, I've been pimping myself out like a hooker on Navy payday. I've been on so many podcasts lately, I can't keep count. But that being said, you can find me on the South Florida Tribune channel every Monday, and occasionally on here, occasionally on the Sports Exchange, and whatever else Scott needs me to do, because I'll do it. Why? Because that man lets me write for him under the Motor City Tribune heading. I am his Lions editorialist. Look me up there. You can also find me on Facebook at Jeremy Ballrick. You can also find me on the Motor City Kneecap Biters page. I started when we hired Dan Campbell, and I like the guy so much, I named my podcast after him on YouTube. The channel is Kneecap Biting with Smokin' Jeremy B. And on Twitter at Smokin' Jeremy B, where you'll find many of the writings, many of the shows that I do with these guys, and also my own shows, opinions, and everything else. And if you follow me, I follow you back, because I'm not rude.
Well, you know, I got to tell you, Candy, I want you to point out kudos to the people that participate in the chat room, and then you can give our stuff one more time.
Okay, kudos to Brett Gardaby, Big Dan Davis, Travis Holmes, and Jennifer Matthew Lewis. And that would be the ones that chimed in today. We appreciate all the comments that came in. If you want to reach us, first of all, you can email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Email us ideas, anything you want. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune YouTube. Just hit the red please subscribe button. Catch any of our other shows. We have 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We have Fire Up Michigan, Fire Up Wisconsin, Fire Up Florida. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, Inside the Pigskin, Sports Exchange, No Limits, you name it. It's on there. It's something is out there for everyone on our YouTube station. Go to our website, www.South Florida Tribune. Catch Jeremy's writing, catch Scott's writing, catch these podcasts, and much, much more. If you want to advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you want to listen to us audio, catch us on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to strive for 1,000 subscribers. Come on, make 2023 our year. And
Can I add something to that for you, Candy? And
You
call
should.
him if you want to sponsor our YouTube channel, because that'll help cover the cost of StreamYard. Come on, help us out. Small businesses everywhere, Michigan, South Florida, come on. Because that's what I do, is I approach small businesses because they don't have a venue that'll be as cheap as sponsoring a show on YouTube.
Look at this. Steve, you know, Jeremy, to me, just like you, Mel, Rick, is the ultimate company guy. We get the one-liners and the banner with them. And, I guess I can say this. We've acquired some great talent in 2022. I expect to do even better in 2023. And No Limits is the show to watch out for. I plan to do a lot of one-on-one interviews as well. So we have a lot of good projects in the works.
Can I time out for a second?
Sure.
And if any of you have seen, there's ESPN is now doing podcasts where it's all females. We'll catch Sideline Sports, 3 Chicks in a Pod, or Chicks in Salsa. It's all chick shows, and we did it before ESPN.
Look at
Chicks
that.
and salsa is pretty good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
well,
commenting there.
You know what, Jeremy? I've never seen a guy get around quicker than you. I wish I could run as fast as you with the dial.
Oh, I don't run anywhere, but I do run through that internet.
That's what I mean. GMTA, great minds think alike. I don't want to keep these guys up past their bedtime, but I do want to thank everybody tonight. Jeremy, Rick, Mel, Steve, Candy, for staying up a little later. I said we had a very busy show tonight. Try to cover a lot of as much as we can to keep you all caught up. But once again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight on Inside the Pigskin. We look for bigger and better things in 2023. I am so proud of the people that are in this organization that continue to contribute time in and time out. Merry Christmas to every one of you. Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, and whatnot. And I hope you have a healthy, prosperous New Year. Any closing thoughts before we call it a night? Go ahead, Jeremy.
I want all of our watchers, viewers, listeners, depending where they get the podcast from, to try every day to be a better person than you were the day before, because that's the only way we can make the world a better place. Love those around you. Hold them close this holiday season, because no day is guaranteed. I know this for a fact, because in 2011, I lost my grandmother on Christmas morning, and Christmas has never been the same. So that being said, Merry Christmas, one and all. Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Yom Kippur, whatever you celebrate, I don't care. Because you know what? We are all human. We all bleed red. There is no color of skin. There is no pigmentation. There is no ethnicity. We're humans. Let's treat each other as so.
Steve, anything you want to add?
No, that's perfectly said.
Good. Well, you know what? Thanks for letting us be a part of your evening tonight. On behalf of Candy Ebling, Smoking Jeremy, Rick Curdy, Mel Farr Jr., and Steve Ballesteri, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth, who can also be reached on Twitter at Tribune South. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. We'll be in touch with more shows, updates, and releases. Meanwhile, enjoy your holiday season, and thanks. God bless to everybody. Have a good evening and Happy New Year. And once again, Happy Holidays and Merry Christmas. Good night now.
Spade and neuter your pets.
Hey, guys, I got to run.